I'm so excited for you to be here today and to get to talk to you.
Thank you. So, Juliet, I don't know if we were ever I don't think we were ever in a scene together, were we?
We weren't, we never got to work together. I came in season two, and I can't believe this is the first time I'm getting to meet you. We never got to overlap on any other shows or anything.
Ken, you're from Brooklyn?
I am. Can you tell from my English accent? Yeah, no, I came out to LA in 75.
Mm.
And yeah, but Brooklyn, always maintaining the Brooklyn accent, and I lose it when I have to.
Yeah, yes.
But
It's
it's
tough to get rid.
always
It's a
there.
professional necessity, yeah.
Exactly. It lingers in the background all the time.
So, Ken, tell us a little bit about your early life growing up. And you grew up in an acting family, right?
Yeah, my brother Michael was always acting in high school and then at Brooklyn College, and saw all of his productions. And I followed him to from Lafayette High School, where I was in, it was called the Sing, where we performed some musical stuff. And then Brooklyn College, I did some acting there, and then but it was also the time of the Vietnam War stuff going on, so I minored in teaching, but I, graduated with an acting degree and also a teaching.
Did you ever teach? Did you do
I
any of
did.
that?
I taught in the New York school system for a little while. I was a substitute teacher, which is a horrific
I was
way.
going to say that must have been crazy, was it?
Horrible, just horrible. I mean, the kids, the second they find out there's a substitute teacher, it's Yahoo!
Did you bring
And,
that into your performance as a principal?
believe me, I know teaching well. I mean, I've been a teacher for a long time, so being a principal is one step above that on, on the
And,
show.
and did you always know that you, even when you were teaching, that you were a performer and that you were going to do that?
Yeah, I was, while I was teaching, I was studying with Stella Adler,
Mhm.
with Stella Adler.
Wow.
And that was an amazing experience.
Wow.
She was
Well,
very, very tough teacher, but incredible. I mean, she was the lady of, she really believed in imaginary circumstances. So you had to write your everything about any kind of scene you were playing. You had to write the whole background of it.
mhm.
And it helps. And I did that pretty much on a lot of stuff that I've done. I probably did it for Principal Flutie, I imagine so.
You
So
write out your character bio, like the
yeah,
whole
yeah,
history and all that.
bio, what's, where I came from, what I've done, what my aspirations are, all the things that, went on. Now, I don't know, did you get an opportunity to work with Charlie Martin Smith? Because he was the director of my Buffy.
I didn't work with him. I worked with so many other directors, but never with him. But I know you worked with him quite a lot.
Yeah, he was at the beginning of the whole experience. Yeah, to get back to my brother was acting a lot, and then he had a Fulbright scholarship to England, and Stacy Keach greeted him at the airport. And
Really?
yeah, yeah, and he was the only person of that year, actor, to go to Lambda and London Academy.
Yep.
And so that was his background. Then he was at Berkeley, and then he was in LA, and I used to visit him in LA. And then I said, okay, I've done off Broadway. I've studied with a lot of good people. And so I came out to LA and then started working like crazy right at the beginning.
You were in Ron Howard's directorial debut, Grand Theft
I,
Auto.
I was. That came out of my first job was on Happy Days.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Was it Happy Days or Laverne and
no,
Shirley
Happy Days.
first? Happy Days was first.
Yeah, did
Ah,
Happy Days first, and played. Those were the days when you could play a lot of different characters. And so I would be Rocco Baruffi, then I'd come back as Frankie Bing Bong, then I was somebody else, and it's just that's the way it was. And that was a great training ground. And the director was a gentleman named Jerry Paris.
Oh, Jerry the neighbor from Dick Van Dyke Show.
You got it. Yeah, what a great man. Unbelievable, and it just a real mensch. I mean, he was kind of like my mentor at the beginning of my television career. He was always, I would talk to him about stuff, and he was right there. And of course, Gary Marshall was
mhm.
always on set. Gary actually directed me at his theater called the Falcon Theater. He has a
Yeah.
theater in Burbank.
Yeah.
And he came in and directed Arsenic and Old Lace. which I-
Oh,
yeah, it was wonderful. And
how
yeah,
fun.
what a great man. So yeah, no, those people really cared. And I'll never forget, I was driving on Melrose and a car behind me honked, pulled up beside me. It was Jerry Paris. And he said, "You're gonna get a series."
How great.
I wish I followed him, but he was great. I mean, Joe, what, and then there was Lowell Gans, who became, those guys wrote
Babalu Mandel and Lowell Gans.
Babalu Mandel, and
Yeah.
all those people. Yeah. And Ron was talking about that he was going to direct a movie, and he asked me if I wanted to be in it. I said, sure. And got to be in a helicopter, strange Roger Corman movie.
Yeah.
That he directed and starred in. And every time there was a part that I was right for in a Ron Howard movie, it went to his brother.
Ah.
But I ran into Ron at a party, and my son Sam, who's an actor, I said, "This is a perfect opportunity. I'm gonna have Ron talk to Sam about what it's like to be a child actor." And Ron was so kind enough to sit down with Sam and talk to him about, being level-headed. And we, of course, always my son was an actor, but he was a regular kid. He played baseball, basketball, and, it was all that he wanted to do it. So we said, fine, sure.
And you've worked with Sam on a number of things. You did a Wells Fargo commercial, and you also worked on the Goldbergs together. Have you worked together other than that? And also with your daughter, Jenny, I know she, as well as actress, director, producer too.
When we did the Wells Fargo commercial, Sam actually played me at the age of 35. And he was 22 or 24 at the time. So they put a beard on him, and they aged me down to 64 and then to 80 or 70, whatever it was. And I was on a Segway.
Segway.
Oh,
Oh,
Segway.
Yeah. So I was on that, which scared the crap out of me.
Oof.
But it was amazing to see my son 10 years older than what he was. And he really looked, and he looks like that now.
wow.
When we did the Wells Fargo commercial, it was, that was wonderful. But working with my son on the Goldbergs is one of the highlights of my life. I
Oh.
mean, to work with your son, I did 30 episodes of the Goldbergs, and he was a regular for 8 years. Started off as a co-star and just became a regular. And the only actor I ever worked with that I could just do it that way, because that doesn't really work. I'm crying. I'm laying here in the hospital bed. That's how it's, you can't do that with any other actor. Your son, you can get away with it. And
How incredible, though, for you guys to
oh,
get to
yeah.
share that whole journey and that experience
it was
in that way.
wonderful. I mean, every morning that we worked on the show, going into our trailers and going into makeup, and it's my son sitting there, and I would always ask the makeup people, has it been nice this week? What's going on with?
You were checking up on him all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it was a great show. It was a great show. It's very sad that me and Mindy have talked about the loss of the show, because it was so wonderful to be on that with all those people, And my daughter Jenny, I did a play with Jenny. It was wonderful working with her, and she's now teaching and running a Jewish camp, and she works with kids, and she got me a granddaughter, which is wonderful, my little Sadie. Yeah,
Aw.
so that's exciting. So I auditioned for Friends, and it was one of those auditions where you go in the morning and they say, okay, it was like 8 of us. Everybody goes in, comes out, stay, because you're going to go to work right after.
Right.
So
Go straight to
I-
wardrobe, right? Like you're
Yeah.
going to send you, yeah.
Exactly. So I went in, probably 4th or 5th, and I did what I thought was good, came out. And then after everybody, they came back out and said, okay, everybody go home. Can you come back into the room? So that's a great sign. I thought that was wonderful. And I said so the producers were all there and the director. And I said, now guys, that I can't work late on Friday night. They said, what are you talking about? That's when we shoot. And I said, well, my daughter is in a play, Little Shop of Horrors, and she's starring in it, and it's her only performance, and I can't miss it. So I'm very sorry. I thought my agent worked that out with you guys. So I said no, and I walked into the parking lot, and the casting director came running after me and said, Ken, we want you to do the part, we'll work it out, and we'll shoot out of order. And so they did that on the day of the shoot. They said, you don't have to be there for the bow at the end of the show. They said, we understand, and they did it. So I was able to shoot my stuff and get to see my daughter in middle school in Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh,
Nice-
wow. That's
Nice to
great.
get at a point in your career where you actually could pull that, like where you could actually say no, because it's so tough. Like, you know, when you're starting out as an actor.
Yeah, well, this one was tough, I'll tell you, but also the money, because Friends
Right.
was on forever. Friends is on forever, and I get recognized for Friends a lot. And
Yeah.
but family comes first. So
What a
that's
beautiful
what I had to-
story.
Oh, I love that story. It makes me seem great. I'm not that great. But it was in the moment, it just had to be done. So that's what I did,
Well, and it was a testament to your work that they wanted you enough and were going to change the schedule, and that you were able to do, that you were putting your family first, and that you were able to do both is just
Yeah,
the
it was
best.
great. It was great. Great show to work on, and wonderful people. And they were making $1 million an episode. I was making just a little less.
Just a little bit less.
Slightly.
Exactly.
And you worked on Any Which Way You
You
Can.
Can.
Can you talk?
Mm.
Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit? Any Which
Yeah,
Way You Can.
I never got to meet Clint Eastwood. How about that? My scenes were with a ferret and an actor named Harry Gardino, and
Yep.
I played a Italian mobster, the head of the Italian mobs. I was the son of the head of the Italian mob, and the director looked exactly like Clint Eastwood from the back, and it turned out he's his stuntman, and he
Wow.
directed this movie.
Oh,
So, and I never got to meet Clint, and I always kept saying, is Clint coming? Is he going to go? No, Clint's not going to be here. Clint is not going to be here.
Did you get to meet Clyde at least?
Yes. Oh, no, wait a second. No, I met a snake and a mongoose. Yeah, that's what I met. That, it was a great experience being in a Clint Eastwood movie, of
Sure.
course. Yeah.
can you discuss a little bit about working on the Fabulous Baker Boys?
The Bridges brothers and their father actually came to the set.
Wow.
And that was an amazing experience. And Michelle Pfeiffer, I worked with her husband a lot, David Kelly.
Mhm.
We shot maybe 4 or 5 scenes. I think 3 survived. And I understood when I saw the movie. But Bo and Jeff were great to work with. The cinematographer was Michael Bauhaus, who's
Oh.
very, very well known, and he did some incredible camera moves and all of that. And it was what a first-class production.
Yeah.
But my favorite movie that I've ever done was Unlawful Entry, because I played Kurt Russell's lawyer. I
Mhm.
had a fabulous role in it. Worked with Kurt a lot. Great part and a
Mhm.
great movie.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine who I play cards with was the writer. I got a great story. I was asked by the director, Jonathan Kaplan, who was a friend of mine who I worked with on a few different things. He said, would you come in and read with the actresses who are reading for the lead in Unlawful Entry? And so there was every young actress in the world, movie stars, were coming in to read. Elizabeth Shue came in, and Elizabeth Shue said to me, would you mind, because we were rehearsing it outside before we went in, would you mind if I kissed you? I wasn't married at the time. I said, yeah, that'll be okay. So we did the scene. She did a passionate kiss with me, and she left. And the casting director said, I don't know. She doesn't do anything for me. And every man in the room said, trust the testosterone. She really nailed it. And she would have gotten the part had it not been that Madeline Stowe just came out with
Oh, right.
that
Oh,
Indian, the movie that she did, last, the Mohican thing.
Deacons. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And so it was a great movie. And, Ray Liotta and Kurt Russell. I remember we were in a car once and he was talking to Goldie on the phone. It was going to be the break for Christmas. And he's talking to her about taking the jet to go to France. And I was saying I'm taking a bus to go to Victorville for the holidays. Little bit of a difference, but wonderful guy. Yeah, really enjoyed working on that movie. Yeah.
And what about your time on RoboCop 2?
Yeah, that was Irvin Kershner, who's he did Star Wars, I
Yeah.
believe.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, that was great. I had not that much to do. We shot in Houston. And I remember I was blown away by the whole RoboCop thing, the RoboCop, what he was wearing and all of that. That, it was a very interesting movie and very wonderful to work with Irvin Kershner. Yeah.
And what was it like working with George C. Scott in Exorcist 3?
Unbelievable. George C. Scott was one of my heroes.
Yeah.
And we had a scene together. I was playing the head of the hospital.
Yep.
And we had a scene where in rehearsal, I'm supposed to walk in. George has his back to me. And in the room, there are about 15 bottles filled with blood and plasma. And that was supposed to be his best friend who was killed and put into these bottles by
The Gemini
Yeah.
killer.
Right. Yeah. So that was the scene. I'm supposed to say to him, what the hell are you doing here? Get out. You shouldn't be here. He's a detective. And he had the explanation. This is my best friend, all that kind of stuff. So George said, I don't want to do that. The director said, okay, George, what would you like? And George said, let Ken come in. And he said, what is your line? And I told him my line, what are you doing here? And I'm just going to turn around and stare at him. Now, George C. Scott has the most intimidating stare of any person because he shakes and his whole being was so intimidating. I believe the take that we used was me saying, excuse me, sir, what are you doing here? He turned around, did that shake looking at me, and I said, okay. And I walked out. And that I believe is in the movie.
That's the director is William Peter Blatty, who also wrote Exorcist. And
Exactly. Yeah.
That's an
Yeah.
intense scene you two have in that scene because that's when he
It
finally like
is.
breaks down.
Well, and
Yeah.
obviously it was intense. It sounds like that
And
whole
and
scene was just
he was fabulous. He was like, I heard all these stories about him being an alcoholic and about all this, but his wife Trish was there and he was one of those actors. He would be playing chess, talking. They said, George, we're ready. Boom. He would go on the set and right there,
Hmm.
right there. And I love that kind of work because it elevates, when you with somebody that, it's like playing tennis with somebody who's better than you. So you just get better because, just their presence. And he really improved that scene. I did a Columbo with Peter Falk.
Oh
You want
boy.
to talk about
Oh.
talk about being intimidated. So we're rehearsing the scene, and the scene is one where I'm supposed to move from chair to chair, and he follows me from chair to chair. And he said, I don't like the way this is working. All right, you play me and I'll play you.
oh.
So I said, Peter, you want me to play Columbo? He said, yeah, I want to watch it. So I did the scene and he looked to the writers and he said, all right, this is what you got to do. This, I'll be in my trailer. And then he came back and we did the scene. So playing Columbo to Columbo, so weird.
What was that like?
It was amazing. It was amazing.
Well, even this long later, when you went into Columbo, you definitely channeled Columbo right here. So
Yeah. Right. A little bit. A little bit.
yeah. So what was it like working with Arnold on The Running Man, and how did you film that stunt with the pen?
Scared shitless. Because I knew from the script that he was going to stab me in the back with the pen. So they put on this big kind of thing under my shirt and suit, metal this way and wood down my back. And the idea was that Arnold was going to, right into it. So I'm nervous as hell about the whole thing. Arnold seems to be a different species of human being. I've never seen thighs that big or arms that big. And so when it came to it, I'm wondering, is he actually going to go through the wood and into my... So I do the scene and I'm reading all of this legalese, and then he's supposed to sign it and he's having a problem. I said, okay, victim here, sign right here. And then he goes, boom. And it didn't go through, but I felt like it did. The look on my face when I turned back to him, that wasn't acting. That was pure scared craplet. And
That looked like a stiff hit.
yeah, and I go running off. And he also is a little bit of a jokester. I had a scene, Paul Michael Glaser was the director from Starsky and Hutch.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, he was the director of Running Man. And I'm supposed to come through a door. So Arnold thought it would be funny if he smashed the door shut and I couldn't get through the door. So the Paul says, action, Ken. Ken can't open the door. And it was just that was, I mean, he just enjoyed it. And, he was smoking cigars the whole time and blowing smoke in your face. And that's the governor of our
It's exactly what you would think he'd be.
Right, exactly. It was fun. It was fun. I mean, it was, again, Running Man these are all, I mean, I was lucky in my career to be in some really wonderful stuff, beginning with Happy Days that I actually did. My first movie that I did was called Hot Tomorrows. That was an AFI movie directed by Martin Brest.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
He directed Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was at the American Film Institute at the time, and this was his thesis. He handed in a 12-minute film to them, and we shot a 35-minute, 40-minute movie that he got donations from people, and even them, I mean, the guy was incredible. And it was me and actor named Ray Sharkey. I don't know if you guys
Oh,
remember.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were the two leads. And this was, I think I was here for a month. I did 2 Happy Days and I did the lead in this movie. I thought this town was the easiest town in the world. Work. It was great. I mean, I'm not...
you definitely hit the ground running. And it's so cool what you were talking about, the fact that you got to play the 3 different characters on Happy Days. It's like summer stock or something. I wish that still you were able. I once was even turned down. I was doing a series on the WB and I got another role on another series. And because it wasn't scheduling, I was finished with that commitment. But they said, oh, because she's identifiable as this other character, even though everybody wanted me to do it, the network wouldn't let me do it. And it's such a crazy thing. It's like, that's the point of being an actor, is that you can play.
Exactly. ER, I did 2 different characters. NYPD Blue, I did 2 different characters. LA Law, I did 2 different characters. So there was always, if the shows lasted long enough,
they could bring you back.
Right.
Yeah, because it was different than streaming, because people waited week to week. So if it went on long enough, it wouldn't be the same thing, that you could track it that same way. So how did you get cast as Principal Flutie?
Audition in the room. Really had no idea what it was going to be. Kind of a mystery to me. The lady that was there, who became a big person at Fox. Do you remember?
Was it Gail Berman?
That's it, Gail Berman.
Gail Berman, yeah.
Yeah, she was in the room. And I started doing the audition, and she was laughing and loving what I was doing, and I thought it was great. And then they called and I got the role. I think I had a conflict at the time. And I think my agents said, well, you should do this one because this is going to be good. And
Ooh.
so, yeah,
And
so
had you had a full script, or did you just have sides going in?
just had sides. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't, if I'm not mistaken, I just had sides. And then when I went to because again, this is the first episode, first everything,
Yeah.
the sets were incredible, the big cave that they had. So, going in there, it was just an amazing experience. Who knew the phenomenon that was going to be?
Yeah, yeah. And for the people that don't know, sides are just pages of a script instead of getting the whole script. Sometimes you just get a few pages that have a scene or two or three or four, but it's just a few scenes. So, and of course, as an actor, it's always, if you can have a whole script, it's so much more helpful because you understand that the world that you're in, you're not guessing a lot of the variables when you're going in.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I do a lot of private coaching from my acting, I don't teach anymore, but a lot of private coaching, and anytime they get sides, I tell my young students to get the script, get the script, get the script, read the script, do whatever you can to get more and more informed, even look at the sides of the other people, because that
Yes,
you
I always did that. If I couldn't get a script, you look at everybody else's
I was the
scene.
guy stealing the sides for my cold reading classes. So I'd go in to read for one side, and then I would take 6 or 7 sides that was sitting out there, so I could use them for my cold reading audition class.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you remember how the role was described to you? Do you remember any of the specifics that you were given once you were hired, or even before you were hired, that carry over?
I think it was more of a very straight-laced, to the point
Mm.
kind of principle, took no nonsense and stuff like that. And that was kind of my approach to working on it. And then on the set with Sarah, Michelle, things just started evolving and it became looser. And I just came up with this business about her record. And I think it was my idea to rip it, and then for continuity's sake, I scotch taped it together, and that they use that, and I love. I mean, that was a wonderful moment. She went right with it, and I believe clean slate, Buffy. That's what you get here, and things like that. Yeah.
First of all, it's just brilliant comic timing. It's such great business. It's wonderful that it came out of an organic acting moment.
Yeah.
And you can feel that because it also tells you so much about your character. It's basically the physical manifestation of how you say that the kids can call you Bob, but they don't. Like you're already, all the things that you say in the words you get in that action. And it's like right from that first moment that we meet you, seeing that, it's just unbelievably wonderful, that delicious moment.
I think when they cast me, they're not going to get that much of a hard ass. They're going to get a little bit of humanity, and I think that comes through in my work. So that was part of embracing the idea of this girl who was kicked out of her other schools and was coming into the new school, and to give her a chance. And then as time went on, things developed that we didn't know.
It's a great performance that really characterizes this very specific kind of educator that's trying to talk at the student's level, but is really incapable of it.
Exactly. They're always trying to be your friend, but they can't.
Right.
So yeah, getting down on that level. Yeah.
What do you think the key and to the essence of the character was for you? Obviously, it sounds like it developed, and it developed right when you were on set and you were working the scenes. What do you think one of those, sort of that way in for you, that was that little kernel that made it all
I
sort of
think
come together?
liking the kids and trying to understand their teenage angst that was going on all the time, and dealing with all of these different elements of strangeness that was happening, and trying to ground everybody. So my job when everybody was panicking was to try not to panic up until a certain point.
Mhm.
Then, all hell broke loose, the hell mouth. But I think more than anything, the authority, but also the humanity, I think was part of it.
What was it like shooting at Torrance High while the classes were in progress?
Much better than when I shot a movie in Bulgaria where we shot at a prison.
Ooh.
And the
I would hope so.
The alarms would go on. We'd all have to stand to the side. The prisoners would walk by. They would count everybody as they went, and then they brought us back. So working at the high school, much easier. I don't really remember too much interruption. I just remember a lot of the times when there were school breaks. Were there bells happening while we were working?
Yeah,
Hey,
there were, but
yeah.
they shoot in between bells and stuff.
Right. Yeah, I think I remember that. I also remember it being very hot.
I once was playing a doctor and we were shooting at a hospital and I had the lab coat on, and to the left was where we were shooting and to the right was the emergency ward. These people came up and were rolling this gentleman in with urgency and started asking me medical questions. And I got slightly apoplectic for a minute and like, you don't want to be asking me, you want to be going that way, like that way. There was that moment
Doesn't know what they're doing.
at all.
Wearing the lab coat, you should know. I mean, I
Exactly.
played so many doctors and lawyers in my time. The one thing that somebody told me, which was really true, the only people who will know the real truth about this is a real doctor. But everybody else will buy it, whatever you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
I was doing Irreconcilable Differences. I had Ryan O'Neal on the table and knew all my lines, a lot of medical lines. And the medical professional who was, there to make sure everything was right, he said, no, you can't say that. You can't say that. You can't say that. Here are the new words.
Oh,
And it was all medical jargon, huge medical jargon.
yeah.
So for one of the first times in my life, I took the paper of what the lines were. I put it into the cavity of Ryan O'Neal. That was supposed to be him laying on the, his head was here, his body was here, and I'm looking down at him. And I'm spouting, well, you have an infarction of the, and worked fabulously. But
Well, you'd have to in that case. I mean, if you're doing
absolutely,
that, there's no other way to do
you
that.
can't do that to an actor. No,
No.
it's wrong.
Especially with all of that kind of, medical, really difficult language that you're not used to saying.
There's nothing to hang on to.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite moment from the show? Is it when ripping and putting it to back the report together, or what?
That probably was my favorite. I think when the hyena kids came across the table, when they did all that kind of makeup on me with the scratches and all that
Yeah.
stuff, I think that was kind of fun. And also handling that stupid pig.
Herbert.
Right. So there were lots of, memories of that. It's interesting because, as you know, that studio where we shot, I think nothing else was there.
Yeah.
We were the only ones using that facility.
Yeah, absolutely. It was us. We had it all. You strike such a wonderful balance of humor and power. We talked about it a little bit when you were saying that you brought, the humanity in as well as the authoritative figure. One of the examples in The Pact, that was the last episode that we get to see you in, the scene at the zoo, it's very comic, and then you tell them that you're going to be watching them, and it is a powerful threat. And how did you strike that balance and walk that line and sort of get into the skin of that?
I think it was kind of easy because those guys were so weird and so raucous and so crazed, making noises and just not being normal well, maybe they weren't normal teenagers, but even far beyond that, to get them to pay attention and to get them to really honor the zoo and to not do the stuff that they wanted to do. That was easy. I remember those guys were really good and scary,
Yeah.
and scared the shit out of me in that other scene with when they jumped
Was
across.
the zoo sequences, was
Yeah.
that the
Yeah,
LA
they
Zoo?
jumped
Okay.
the LA Zoo. Yeah.
And when they do jump over the desk and that whole desk scene, I mean, you have so many shades and colors and turns in this scene as first you're sort of not, telling them what to do. And then when you start to sort of get so out of unwieldy and it's so dangerous and scary and threatening, your fear that's so palpable, and then the scrapes and all. How was it shooting that scene? Because it's really such a strong scene. And also, I feel like at this point in the episode, we've been just learning more and more about your character. Like we've just been sort of bonding with your character more. So it's such a shock in terms of not expecting that. And when they zoom in on your, lovely smiling face on the photo of you on the desk, it's just such a sad moment. But how you playing it, how did you orchestrate and find all of those colors?
Well, I think the essence of knowing that they were going to do what they were going to do and trying to avoid it and trying to take charge and trying to handle them, I think made me be stronger and made me really, and then when things started unraveling, I think the Flutie's, my persona lost my authority.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Losing that and getting the scratches and getting hurt and knowing that things were really going berserk, was terrifying.
Mhm.
And I think it was kind of, as an actor, you just have to kind of go along with it. We're playing, we have to go with what's going on in the moment, and in that moment was fear.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And they brought it, and the choreography was great. The makeup on that show was incredible,
Yeah.
as you know. I mean, just unbelievable. And so just having that on my face gave me a little bit of what I needed, for sure.
How long did, in terms of shooting that sequence, because obviously when, we're shooting on television, everything's moving fairly quickly and we're doing a lot of pages a day, but how long did you have to shoot that sequence? Do you remember kind of if you had a lot of takes and how much coverage there was? And did you do all the stuff without the cuts and then the stuff with the cuts? How did the execution of that unfold?
When we finally had the makeup and everything, we didn't have a lot of takes to do,
Mhm.
because they're coming across and hitting me and I'm going down and all of that. So I think a lot of it was done on them first, and there was a long scene, and then they came back on to me with that and all those reactions and trying to, and then it was a nice buildup. I love scenes that have a beginning, middle, and end, and
Mhm.
it had it. So, and it had an end for sure. So,
Mhm.
uh, so that that memory, I think everything helped. The the way those guys were, the scariness of that, the makeup, the whole situation, and the imagination, that all of that worked into it.
Yeah.
In the series is an episode we just watched, Teacher's Pet, and it's where you're walking Buffy to a grief counselor. And you're just so brilliant in the scene where you're trying to talk to her, but you keep reminding her and yourself of actual policies as you're trying to do. You could hug, you could give me a hug, but actually you can't give me a hug. Like you see the conflict that you're going through of trying to be a person, but also keenly aware of the school's policies about being that.
Everybody there was, it was a great endeavor. I think everybody was young. I was one of the older people, and so being the elder people there, and I guess having more experience, that kind of worked into the character. And so, yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Did you know when you came in that you were going to be going through episode 6, that was the number of episodes? Did you know that you were gonna did you know you were gonna get eaten? When did you find that out?
That was like what those guys on The Sopranos would say. They would get a script and they would turn, keep trying to see if their character would live. I never even thought that that was a possibility. And then I'm reading it, I'm going,
What?
"Oh." And then the next thing I know, Armin is showing up. So it was a shock. It was a surprise.
Why do you think Buffy has such legs with the audience? Because it's even more popular today than when it was first on, and it just sort of grows. And during the pandemic, it was trending. It's, why do you think that is?
I think the youth and being in peril and the classiness of the way it was all shot and the cast, everybody in the cast everybody was really good. And the writing was wonderful, So I think girls really, really, really kind of went with what Sarah was doing and what you were doing, all the young people on the show. I think those that made it work. I had no idea that the show was going to have those kind of legs. If I knew that, I would have pulled a Joey Pantoliano. Joey Pants was in a movie. Then he read the script and it said that he dies. It was The Fugitive. And Joey went to direct and said, "I'm not going to die. This is a great movie. You're going to do another one, so don't kill me." So they didn't, and Joey got his way.
Yeah.
And he got
shows
to,
up.
and he's in the sequels. Yeah.
Wesley Snipes.
How has the fan reaction been to your role over the years? Are there any memorable fan encounters that you've had?
I run into a lot of, when I've done those autograph things, I run into a lot of people that say, "Well, I have this autograph, this autograph, this autograph, this autograph. I need you. I need this." And they would pull out these posters. And looking back on my career, it's one of the highlights because it was such a popular show.
It's wild. We're doing a sequence where we're going to have the battle of the Uber Buffy fans, and we've been getting people who want to write in and compete and want to be a contender in it. And we just got one a few days ago, and she has watched Buffy through between 50 and 100 times.
Wow.
So she's definitely going to be one of our contenders because that's a lot.
She might be the winner.
She might be the winner.
Now you're good friends with Armin Shimmerman, who played the part after me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And by the way, Armin says hello because I'm dear friends with Armin and Kitty as well. He loves you so much, and he was so excited that we were getting to do this. He said to me that you were, first of all, that he watched the show because of you being in it. And
I knew him. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that you were instrumental in him getting the role. And for those of you that aren't immediately recognizing Armin's name, Armin plays Principal Snyder, the principal after Principal Flutie.
Right. I don't remember. Maybe I had said to Armin, because Armin took my class, my audition class, I believe.
Oh.
And then we became friends, or it might have been the scene class. I can't remember. But I may have said to him, there's this part on the show that I know that they're going to, go with another principal. So you should look into it. That's probably what went down.
Oh,
but
wow.
me and Armin did a reading of a play in Aspen. Now, if you know Armin, he's a white knuckler when he flies.
Yeah.
He's scared crapless. I've never.
So
that's Chris
by the
right
way.
over here.
Chris,
That's very
one of our
relatable.
Scoobies. Chris is trying to figure out how to white knuckle his way from the East
No,
Coast
you
to the
can
West
do
Coast.
it. You can do it. You can do it.
I appreciate that. I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out a way I can knock myself out in the waiting area and then drag me on the plane.
Tough one.
Yeah.
I
That
mean,
seems to be the.
When I was with Armin, we were flying into Colorado, so it wasn't that far for us to go. But I had no idea that was what was going on with him. We did a 2-character play. It was great.
Ooh, first of all, Armin they flew to and from Italy. So that he's obviously, I think he's gotten better, or he white knuckled it all the way to Europe and back. I'm not sure.
Right.
Well, they did the Chris method where they just knocked them out.
Knocked themselves out.
That's
What was the play that you did? Was it a two-hander?
It was a 2-hander, and it was a original. We did a reading of it in LA, and the people who watched it liked it so much they moved it to Colorado. So we did like two shows in Colorado, which was kind of fun.
Incredible.
Yeah, yeah.
Incredible.
I don't remember. I mean, when you talk to Armin,
It's funny when you get to a certain point with a body of work too, that you start forgetting things like, oh, I did work on that. Like, you know, which means
with
that you
me,
worked enough to have that happen.
well, the Goldbergs has helped me a lot, but most of the time people look at me and they say, I went to school with you, right? Or you own the liquor store that was, or do you know my brother? Did you go to school with, stuff like that. I was once in a bank and I had done the commish. Remember that show that was
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, with
so
Michael
that-
Checklist,
Chiklis.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I did an
worked with
episode
Michael.
where, did you? Yeah, nice guy. I did an episode where I was a child predator. I was
Mm.
online at the bank and a woman smashed me in the back. And I said, what? And she said, you're not a very nice man. And I said, what? And she said, I saw that show. And I said, that's acting, not
That's a role. That's not me.
yeah, right.
That wasn't the news. That was.
It was
I think with Buffy, for me, the one benefit is I played a vampire, so most people don't think that I am a vampire. So that
You
helps
would
a little
hope.
bit. But I have
great
had where
picture of
like
you.
people have run across a room screaming or something, and you're kind of like, wait, why? Oh, you
Yeah.
scared me so much, and you're like, I'm just a person. I'm just an
Yeah.
actor.
Yeah.
But I can't believe she hit you. That's just
Yeah,
nuts.
she did. She absolutely hit me. She hit me in the back.
Well, good thing she wasn't a person who saw Running Man and decided to reenact that bit.
Right. Yeah, my back gets a lot of work.
Do you have any high school as hell stories?
I think I was bullied in high school, and reason why I had problems was I just didn't know how to defend myself. My father wasn't there. My brother was an intellectual and read a lot of books, and so you can't hit somebody with a book if they're coming at you. I had a girlfriend who was the head of the cheerleaders. Turns out that the toughest guy in the school liked her.
Oh,
And he came up to me and during lunch or recess or something, and he said, you called my mother a name. And in those days, calling some guy's mother a name, you can get killed for that.
Especially at
Probably
Bensonhurst.
still now.
Yeah, Bensonhurst.
exactly.
They don't play that.
So I said, Dominic, wonderful name for a bully. Dominic, look at me. Do you think I would call your mother a name?
right.
And he said, I'm going to meet you after school. And then the buzz came out that was going to happen. And I did the most honorable thing I could. I called my mom and she came and escorted me out.
Yeah.
And then it was dropped and he actually started going out with my girlfriend.
Ugh.
What?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, I mean,
that's
it was a
I
little-
loved the end of the story till that part.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
Her loss.
That was that.
Yeah,
There-
she got Dominic the bully, so she
Exactly.
didn't fare so well there.
You got it. Little did she know. I would be-
Thank you, Ken, for sharing that experience. Was there ever a time in your life where you felt like an outsider and where you felt like someone trying to fit in?
I think that happens a lot, especially this is kind of weird, but I think your audience, this is a good thing for them to hear. When you're working with stars and you come onto a set and everybody knows each other and you're new, you feel so kind of out of place until people come up to you and people welcome you, which is always something that I've always done after that feeling to make people feel at home anytime I'm on a set and working with people, because it's really isolating and really kind of scary.
Yeah, when you come in for anything, whether it's, on where you're coming in for a smaller part on a big film or guest starring on a TV show, everything's sort of like a well-oiled machine and you're like the new kid in school. Everybody has their thing and it is, you have to show up and give your 100% and find your way within that, which is that kind of feeling of that you're. Yeah.
It's scary to be the new guy on the block, in something. And as you get more and more comfortable in your work and in your career, I think you realize that all of that angst is misplaced and you need to get rid of it because your best work comes out of just
Relax.
relaxation, and
Yeah.
the work is what's
Focus.
about. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you will always find this, but I feel like it's always that thing of like making the bloodiest, for not literally bloody, but the choices that are going to involve you the most, so that all that stuff just slips away and you get really invested in what you're doing instead of all of the outside forces.
Making hot choices, making the hottest choice you can, and
Yep.
connecting to that, and letting it feed you. And so I do a lot of work on my scripts. I do a lot of interior work, and when I teach, I'm always doing that. I have a student now who's a great story. He came from Chicago, and 3 weeks in, I worked with him in Chicago, got a couple of jobs, came here, and I helped him, and he got a 3.5 year contract on General Hospital.
Nice.
Woo!
Unbelievable. And he's a major violinist, and they've used it on the show, and he's got a great career ahead of him. And it's wonderful to watch, as an acting. Have you ever taught acting at all?
I have a couple actors that I was coaching, and I have both of them have been booking so much work, and I feel like I'm not a mother in real life, and I feel like a proud mom in terms of it's so it really, I feel like I get so much out of it when they book jobs. I'm so excited for them.
Oh yeah, it's just such a wonderful feeling, and it's like, you guide them, and then in inevitably it's going to be them doing it, and so, but you're giving them of yourself, and it really does make you feel fabulous. I love teaching.
For me, also in my own life, there's a lot of my life I felt like an outsider in terms of certain things about how I was raised, and there's a certain point where you kind of realize, oh, I don't really have to try to fit in. I don't have to do that. I mean, have you found that in any other areas of your life, and that as you get older, that some of that falls away and becomes like it
That's what I
doesn't
was gonna
matter?
say, is as you get older, as the wonderful thing about age is you start losing some of those anxious, the things that make you anxiety ridden, that you understand you can't do anything about it.
Mhm.
And you just have to, well, I can do this. I was watching Howard Stern. Howard Stern had John Hamm on. John Hamm said it took him 20 years, 25 years to go onto a set and not be nervous,
Mhm.
to just be on the set, know that he's good,
Be present, not
yeah,
being so nervous.
right, and be able to deliver. Now, nerves are good. I mean,
Yep.
we work with nerves,
We
but
do.
I found that really interesting. And then there was an article that Jack Nicholson said, if there is one moment in a film where he loses himself,
Mhm.
not aware of the camera, not aware of where he is, and he said that happens once, and he's in every frame of movies. And he
Yeah.
said it happens once, that everything else is technical. You got to hit your mark. You got this, you got that, and then it's professionalism and all of that. But I just found that fascinating to hear that from Jack Nicholson, that it happens, but it's fleeting, and it's that
Yeah.
strange moment that happens.
It's funny. I had so many thoughts from what you were saying. First of all, I think it's such a great thing that you shared that about John Hamm, because it also shows everybody that the outside doesn't always, he looks like he's got the world on a string, that he would never have any of those feelings. And we all do. We all have, it's universal, the
Exactly.
kinds of feelings that we
Yeah,
have.
sure.
And then the other thing that what you're describing with Jack Nicholson, it's like Brando when he sort of looked at his performance and said, I was in and out. I was in and out, but I think us actors are a little bit, and I don't know, Frank and Chris, you guys are actors too. And I always feel it's a little bit like we're like those junkies where we chase that high of where it's so effortless and free and fluid, and stuff is happening and you're surprising yourself, and there is, nothing but the choices working for you, and everything kind of just streaming through you. And you're always you have those moments, and then you're always wanting to get to
No
that
better
state.
feeling than that.
Yeah.
No better feeling. And it was like you said, you are always chasing to get to that place. But I have friends that have said, I was great in this. I don't think I've ever said that.
I've never said that either.
Yeah, I don't think but I've had friends that say that, oh, I was great. Okay, good, yeah, wonderful.
Good
I
for
mean, there's
them.
always- yeah, there's always, you watch your work and you're going, okay, I could have done this, I could have done that. Well, that was okay,
Yeah.
and I think most people feel that way, but then you run across that strange actor that can't do wrong. Anyway, so, yeah.
There's
Yeah.
I want to know about this. This job must have been unusual for you. You were in the video game L.A. Noir. Now, what was the process of shooting your work in that?
That was motion capture.
Yeah.
So they put me in a they told me what was going to happen. They said the character is going to look like you. We were on a mock, I think they call it a volume or something. And there was a table and I think the props were strange. They were, but they weren't. And you're pouring and, talking the way I talk and all that. They wanted New York, which was Brooklyn. I don't think that was a problem. So, and then I saw the final thing and it was incredible. Oh, my son Sam did motion capture in a movie that in his first movie, Monster House.
Oh,
And
wow.
Oh, wow.
he was Chowder in Monster House.
Oh, wow.
That kid. That was motion capture. So that was my first experience with motion capture, was seeing it.
Oh,
And
when he was doing it first.
Wow.
doing it.
Wow.
The director was Gil Kanan, who's now gone on to a lot of other Ghostbusters, and he's doing the new Saturday Night Live thing. And my son has kept friends with him and like that. But motion captures and very interesting.
Did you wear that sort of thing that looks like a scoop? Because I have done it too, and you wear like a kind of, it almost feels like you're in a scuba outfit with all those little
Yeah, the
cameras
black
all over
thing
your
with
body.
the ball.
Yeah. And
Sure.
isn't it trippy to have that thing on your head where the camera is right there? Did you have that? And so at first I
Yeah.
was like, it's in my eye line. It's so
Yeah,
strange.
yeah. And then they also say things like, okay, smile, now frown, now do this, now do that. And they just give you kind of different emotions to do because
Yeah.
they're clicking on the computer and all, Yeah.
And
it's
did you look at the computer? Because for me, it's that 300. For me, I was like, I don't need to have that much information about my 360-degree self ever. Like it was so detailed.
Yeah. No, I was fascinated by the whole thing, and of course watching my son do it and playing in the volume and just having fun. He was 9 or 10 when
Oh,
he.
wow.
I mean, that was one of those jobs where, as a father, I'm so proud of him, but as a father, I hated to put him through the audition process because it was never ending. And then he finally got it. We were on a family vacation up in Zion National Park, and we got the call from the director, either it was Gil or it was the casting or his agent, and they called and said he's got the part. And he went through hell. And you hate to see that for a 10-year-old, but he wanted it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Did you guys get to do your whole vacation, or did you have to come back?
No, we had to cut it short a little bit.
There's
Yeah.
always that thing we always in our house end up saying like, oh, we should book a vacation, because invariably whenever we book a vacation, it'll be that a job comes through exactly at that time, then you can't do it.
Absolutely. No
Yeah.
question.
Law of averages, right? So when you were in school, do you remember what your principal was like?
I think in those days, principals, they weren't around that much. I think, it was like we knew the assistant principal because he would roam the halls. I think
What was he like?
he was a disciplinarian.
Mm.
Don't do that. And again, Lafayette High School was one of the biggest high schools ever here. We had like, I don't know, 8,000, 9,000. There was some ridiculous amount of people. So the principal,
He wasn't stern with impeccable comic timing.
he never tore up any of my.
Yeah.
And you didn't have the desire to attack him over his desk or anything. So you talked a little bit about, you talked about Columbo and a number of other things. You've basically guest starred on every major TV show. I
It's
mean,
been
just it's
nice. I mean,
unbelievable. Are
Yeah.
there any other particular ones that you, any stories that come to mind that you would want to share about your time guest starring on
Dick Van
some
Dyke
of these?
was,
Mm.
I mean, I worked with Dick Van Dyke on two of his things, and couldn't have been nicer, couldn't have been sweeter, and just wonderful. I find that what's her name from Cagney and Lacey?
Tyne Daly?
Tyne Daly. What a wonderful woman. She came over to me and said, "Do you want to rehearse?" I said, "Yes."
Yes.
We rehearsed the heck out of the scene, and then when it was time to shoot, she was very giving and right there. William Hurt, when I
Uh-huh.
did the doctor, he was right there. Good actors want to rehearse.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, in working on the Goldbergs, Judd Hirsch came on to after George passed away, George Siegel, and Judd was incredible. Incredible storyteller, incredible actor, and wonderful guy. And I never knew him, and then became very close. Really nice to work with people who really care. Wendy McCovey, she
Yeah.
incredible. And working off of her, it was like a real good tennis match. Just seeing how things go, and the writing was so great on the Goldbergs.
You're in a very formative movie for me. As we talked about when we just rewatched The Pack, I am deathly afraid of chimps. And that's because of the movie Project X. Instilled a fear of chimps in me that I still have to this day.
I did research. Those were the days when I drove all the way out to an army base to do some research about what it was like to be an army, to be a gatekeeper for the army, kind of like letting people in and raising the flag to come in and interview them and all that. So I spent time. I did the same thing on a project where I was playing a cop. In those days, I think actors, well, me when I was younger, I would really pursue trying to get people to help me. What it's like being a cop, sat in the office of a detective, talked to him about what that's like and all of that. When I played lawyers, I joked that I did so many lawyer parts, I could pass the bar. I mean, they see this face and they say lawyer. And as I got older, I became a judge, which is the pushiest job in television or movies, because you don't have to go to wardrobe. They give you a big black robe, and that's what you're wearing. And so you just show up and you're wearing that.
I, like you, love when you work with actors that want to rehearse and want to, and just because then when you are in the scene, you're exploring things and you're not just sort of finding your way. You're just, you can basically rehearse on film as opposed to, and have a freedom with it. When I was, we were doing an interview with TV Guide for this show, and David Boreanaz ended up making fun of me because the reporter said something about us being on set. And he goes, "Well, this is Juliet on set." I work with music often. So he put on and he was like, "Do you want to run lines? Do you want to rehearse? Do you want to run lines? Do you want to rehearse? Do you want to run lines? Do you want to rehearse?" And he did it like 50 times. I was like, okay, all right.
So that comes from your dance background?
Yeah, probably. But can you tell us a little bit more? I know it's been peppered through the conversation, but about Ken Lerner Studios.
Yeah, when I was studying with Roy London, I took his classes when he first started, and small classes, and then he got bigger and bigger. And he was seeing that I was getting job after job. And he said, "You're working a lot, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I have this thought. I'd like you to teach a cold reading class for me." So I was the first teacher that Roy had. So people in his class, and Roy would offer, you can come to Ken and, do an audition class with him. And so sometimes I had people in my class who was also in my scene class, in the scene class that I was with Roy. So I was teaching
and working with them in class. That's
exactly.
great.
And that was when I started teaching, and the love of teaching happened. And I tell you, as an actor, being able to teach, to not have any other job and to just act, and then being an acting teacher was incredible for me. So I had my studio for like 20 years. I was partners with a woman named Ivana Chubbuck,
Oh,
who
yes.
is very popular now. We were partners. She was the second teacher for Roy.
Mhm.
And then when Roy passed away, unfortunately from AIDS, we took his students, and then we split up because I was acting more and she wanted the acting.
Full-time teaching. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but then I was teaching a lot, and teaching 3 classes a week, and had 25 people in my class each class. It was great.
I read that you frequently were called upon by networks, production companies, studios, including Disney, ABC, NBC, CBS, to privately coach actors for pilots, movies, and television. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Disney called me in to work with some kids at times, and they would send kids to me, which is always tricky because you always had to have a mother in the room or a father in the room. And a lot of the times, very hard to teach kids because they don't have a history, and everything is beautiful.
Your building is on a history, right?
Right. Yeah. So, that's basically, get a life, have a lot of experience.
And then come back and
back.
do it.
Right. Right. So, so I did a lot of that on-set coaching. And
What's your favorite genre to work in?
I get asked that. I've been lucky enough to do comedy and drama almost equal. And so I would imagine probably comedy, because I probably have done a little bit more comedy. I did loads and loads of sitcoms, 3-camera shows, and all of that. But I like to work. I mean, I just 2 weeks ago, I did a small movie called Auschwitz Bagel about.
That's a grabber of a title.
Isn't that a great title? Just about Jews at a funeral. And I was the rabbi, and it was great. And it was a small movie, and there was a woman there who was 95 years old named Bunny Levine, 95 years old.
Wow.
And she knew her lines, and we had to help her walk and stuff like that. But it was the love of acting never stops. You don't retire. I think we've chosen a great profession that we get a chance to enlighten people's lives and bring joy, and I think it's really honorable profession that we do.
What else is a big part of your life these days?
My grandchild takes a lot. We're going to see her tomorrow. They live up in Simi Valley, which is about a half an hour away. That's the biggest change of everything. And I think just relaxing into being an older actor.
You've been with your wife since 1987, and am I correct that she was a reporter for the LA Times in the 80s and 90s? And then she worked in national parks for half of the year and lived in LA the rest of the year. Is that right?
Well, no, she would go for about 2 or 3 months. I said, if you want to do that, because she loves camping and she loves Zion. And Bryce, my son's Sam, his middle name is Bryce, and she loves that area. So when I met her, I was always going out with actresses. That was, I was a young actor, and I was going, that's who I met, was young. And then I met my wife, and she was a journalist, and her friends were all journalists, and it was a whole different world. And it was exciting to be not, did you get the part? What's the part? Did you notice the part? Did you get the part?
Something all different. Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes a total difference to be with someone that doesn't understand the business. She thinks she can act well whenever she works with me. Yeah, and she was a really feisty crime reporter. She went to McDonald's, the massacre in McDonald's in San Diego.
Yeah.
Yeah,
wow.
She actually, I think, interviewed the Strangler.
Oh, the Hillside Strangler?
Hillside Strangler.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she was the LA Times
crime reporter.
The LA Times crime reporter.
So she saw some stuff.
What made her interested in that avenue, in the crime angle?
She always was. She was always fascinated by questions. She's on the internet 1,000 times a day, just looking at the stuff and finding out and looking in the dark web and finding out whatever. That's just a
She's
reporter.
curious. She's a curious person.
Yeah, they're a whole different breed. We
Mhm.
don't know, just like actors are a different breed,
Mhm.
reporters are a whole, journalists are a whole. I went to it was a wake for a reporter just the other day. Michael Connolly was there. He was a reporter that worked.
Yes, I just worked with Michael because I'm recurring on, well, I had recurred on Bosch and now I'm doing Bosch Legacy. And yeah,
Nice.
Michael, his books are all about that.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So my wife knew Michael when he was a reporter. So
Mm,
together. So he was at he was there. And it's just a different mindset.
yeah.
They're so interested in everything where we're interested in who's the director and who's the.
No, but to be fair, you're interested in human behavior. It's not
That's
so
true.
in those
That's true.
areas,
That's-
right?
that-
Yeah,
no,
you're
that's true.
curious. You're
Yeah.
curious what makes people tick. Why do
Exactly.
they, yeah.
Exactly. I always say everything I'm doing is research. So when I do my taxes, well, this is research. I went there.
But it is. Don't you find sometimes
I
that, like
agree.
you get inspiration from the weirdest places or meeting
Yeah.
someone that you're like, oh, that's interesting, and it just does come.
You know what the weirdest thing is for actor? Well, for me, whenever it's horrible to say, there's murder or an assassination or something like that. What does he look like? Can I play that part?
Oh my God.
I mean, it's horrible, but that's what
That's the
that's what
job.
goes through you. I read. Oh, you know what I did? I did Dahmer, that monster, the Netflix.
Right.
Yeah.
That was interesting to work on because it was the part I played was based on a real guy. So I did research
Oh.
on looking at the guy and seeing what he was like. And I really didn't look like him. And I tried to put on some kind of accent and worked on with the director. But if you working on the monster thing and reading the script and getting behind that was really interesting, exploring that kind of serial killer kind of stuff,
What would you say is a secret to having a long marriage?
Compromise. That really is what it's about. You really do need to, because you're not them, they're not you, you're two different people.
Mhm.
And, you really have to understand that sometimes it's just, you have to make allowances. You're going to be your way, I'm going to be my way, and that's how we have to meet up in the middle. Of
Mhm.
course, having our kids helps and dealing with those problems and, raising kids in this town is an interesting prospect. But I would say long marriage is compromise. You just have to. That's what it's about. How long have you been married?
We have been married. We always forget our anniversary. I'm like, I think it's now. Deb, how long have we been married?
That's how long they've been married when you have to ask that question.
It's the best thing that's ever happened to either of us. Like we really, it's like seriously. But I think we've been married. It's funny. Both of us forget our anniversary every year, and we're like, oh, it happened again. But it's
Right.
great because we both do. Because I feel like every day we're just thankful to be
Oh.
together. So we don't really need the anniversary to mark it. But I think it's about 16 or 17 years.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Good for you.
He's the
That's
best.
great.
If you had a dream project, what would it look like?
Would probably include my son and my daughter.
Mm.
Something very personal. But I think that would be working with family, I think would be the biggest thing that I would love to do. And, I've worked with great directors over the years. And I think the wonderful thing about a director who really knows what they're doing is one word can change everything.
Mhm.
Just one word to guide you.
Mhm.
They come over to you and say less, or you've met him before, or whatever, and it just goes right to the point. And so it's like having a real good acting coach in front. I think those are the best directors, because there are a lot of directors that just know camera and lights and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Or
But-
that over talk. Al Pacino said when he was directing, I actually worked with him at the Actors Studio, but he said that he the worst directors sometimes over talk and tell you, and he didn't want to be that kind of director when he was first embarking on directing, where he wanted to, if the actors were doing a good job, he just wanted to shape it where it needed to, but he didn't want to actually kill the things that are working. And sometimes directors feel like they need to say something, or they need to put a stamp on it, and it can actually, make things go in not the best direction.
I would love to be able to find a project that I could do with my family. My son got into producing. He's got a movie that he did for Blumhouse that he produced. He
Wow.
found this
Wonderful.
idea. Yeah, so it's going to come out soon. He's going to see it in August. Directed by Michael Landon's son.
Really?
Power
Wow.
director. He directs Scream. He's directed a Scream.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a nice, big movie. So he's kind of getting into that.
Well, hopefully we'll get to work together.
Yeah,
And
that would be nice.
that would be amazing. And this has just been so, you're just a joy to spend time with. It's flown by.
Yeah.
And I know everyone who loves Buffy and everyone who loves Ken Lerner is going to be so excited to hear all of the riches that you have shared and imparted today, and your humor and just everything. It's just been so incredible.
Well, that's great. I love your energy. Every time that you've ever sent back to me, it's a whoopee and yippee and I'm so happy and and all, and it just comes across. And now meeting you, it comes across. So it's great.
See you next week when we'll do it again. And most importantly, until next time, go out and slay it.